No, what's in you, yeah? Playing Magic can be an expensive hobby. We do what we can to make that hobby more manageable. Trading for other cards, sharing your card pool with the people you live with, or simply setting up a budget to not go over in a month. Spending wisely is incredibly important to me, and that's why I'm so big on product reviews here at Tolarian Community College. Buy singles! That's what I keep saying, and everyone knows that reprints are great for both increasing access to a card and also lowering price. But which reprints are best for which format and why? Today, we're going to look at the top 5 Double Masters reprints for Commander, but specifically in terms of the best prices on the singles post-reprint. But first, a quick word about this video. This video is brought to you in part by Cuba Majigs. And if you think those sound like ridiculous names, you're right, but it's not a ridiculous product. Cuba Majigs is a series of reusable packs for cubes, sideboards, or even just to carry a few extra cards around. They're great for jumpstart packs. Now, I reviewed these a couple years back in a regular old non-sponsored review video, and I love them so much I got a bunch of them, and astute viewers will probably have seen them pop up throughout my videos from time to time. And again, I already reviewed this years ago. I love it. It's something I personally use. Cuba Majigs had just talked about helping out with a sponsored video, and we thought, hey, let's just remind people that this product exists, and it started with a Kickstarter, but it's just available on their website, and they'll even throw a discount to you if you use our code. Originally, Cuba Majigs were designed to help players keep their cubes organized into packs. For my personal Innistrad cube, it's great because I don't have a traditional singleton cube. My Innistrad cube actually tries to recreate an Innistrad booster box. And so when I sort it out into packs, I literally need booster packs. But I also need my cards to be sleeved. And with Cuba Majigs, I can put a full booster pack inside of a Cuba Majig sleeved up. And they'll hold about 15 plus double sleeved cards, 20 plus single sleeved cards, or if you're some kind of animal, 30 plus sleeveless cards. They're even compatible with Jumpstart half decks if you single sleeve them. And so if, like me, you wanted to keep your Jumpstart half decks together and play Jumpstart again and again infinitely, like I recommend, well, these are a classy way that you can keep those Jumpstart half decks together, sleeved, and inside a neat little resealable Cuba Majig. Look at that. Like I said, when I did the initial review, which I encourage you to go review here, it was only a one-time Kickstarter thing, but now they're up on the website. You get a set of 25 packs, which is enough for a single pod, for $29.99, or if you just want to buy one pack, great, $2.99. But hey, for a limited time only, you can get $5 off your order of Cuba Majigs if you use the code TCC at the checkout, or just go to cardamajigs.com/TCC. Links in the description. Ridiculous names, fantastic Magic the Gathering accessory. So coming in at number 10 is Austere Command. A card I love just by its name alone. Austere. I love being so austere. But Austere Command is one that a lot of people forget about, and it is so effective in Commander when it comes to wraths. Whether artifacts, enchantments, or creatures are your problem, you'll be able to deal with the combination that most suits you. It's a modal spell, but one that does focus on timeless white board wipe. And Austere Command is usually amongst the first of these mass removal spells that make the shortlist when deck building in white. And up until this recent reprint, it has actually had a steady rise back up to a higher price. While wraths are largely replaceable at 4 and 5 mana with a great variety of options, few are as good as this one. So the previously higher price and non-essential aspect of better wraths might mean you've not tried this one yet. But thanks to Double Masters, you can pick one up for under $5 again. Well worth it. Speaking of wraths, going into red, I want to talk about Blasphemous Act. Despite multiple reprints, Blasphemous Act remains a card that it just won't stay down. I think overall, never mind just red, it's one of the better board wipes in EDH. And in today's environment, where you need to be as mana efficient as possible, Blasphemous Act is the king of efficiency. Why? Well, read the text. A good amount of the time, this will only cost you 1 mana. A 1 mana Wrath? Yes, please. And when that happens, it gives you the rest of your turn to rebuild before anyone else. If you don't already own a copy of this, now is probably a great time to pick one up, because while it's back down below the $5 range, I'm gonna be surprised if it stays there. Coming in at number 8, we have Greater Good. Despite being brought down in price when the excellent Battle Bond was released some years back, Greater Good is a card that shot right back up in terms of its cost. But is it any wonder why? It's a staple in basically every green deck that plays fatties and wants to take advantage of sacrifice triggers or the graveyard. Again, basically every popular deck. So I'd say it's for the greater good, that this has been reprinted. Being able to sacrifice a creature and draw that many cards, whilst also having to discard some, is a pretty unique effect. And honestly, I'm happy to just use this to set up a sweet living death. Beyond that though, the sky's the limit, and there are plenty of 2-card combos with this enchantment. Next up at number 7, I want to talk about an entire cycle that got reprinted. The Reflection Cycle. Oftentimes, some of the most expensive cards are those with limited printings. We've seen that with Ubliet, and one block in particular is notorious for this, the Lorwyn block. Lorwyn, Shadowmoor, Morningtide, and Eventide include a number of popular cards that to this day haven't ever been reprinted. Though some like Bloom Tender finally got a reprint, although barely, there are others like Greater Oromancy and Rings of Brighthearth that are still waiting for them. No, I don't count the masterpiece for Rings of Brighthearth. I meant like a reasonable reprint. And actually, now that I'm saying this, Double Masters would have been the perfect place to reprint Rings of Brighthearth. What we did get, though, was a reprinted cycle from Shadowmoor, the Reflection Cycle. Though not all of these cards were super expensive, and cards like Rage Reflection were actually used by a lot of people, myself included, as an example of, oh no, what if you open this as your rare? How disappointing. It's a two-edged sword, as the two most played were incredibly expensive. Mana Reflection was $40 and up, and Wound was not cheap either at $25 and up. Double Masters has completely obliterated these prices for the time being, and you can now find these cards for $15 or $10 respectively, and this week, the week of launch, they're still dropping. Mana Reflection is a great enabler for big mana decks in EDH, and slots right into terrifying Zakama, Primal Calamity builds, or in decks like Krufix, God of Horizons, Satan, Krosan Protector, and my personal favorite, Omnath, Locus of Mana. Unlike Miari's Wake, it doesn't bind you to white, and unlike Mana Flare, it doesn't help opponents. Chef's Kiss. Wound Reflection is another heavily played card that can do a lot of work. Whether you're going old school with Kervek the Merciless, throwing in an unblockable Virtus the Veiled, alongside Gorm the Great, or just going for the king of Group Slug, Mogis God of Slaughter, Wound Reflection slots in nicely alongside Archfiend of Despair to really slice life totals down to a manageable amount. Both of these cards are great reprints for popular strategies, and it doesn't hurt that the cycle gets new artwork from the great Chris Seaman, and I love how they use him throughout all 5 of the cards in the cycle, so I've got Seaman over everything. So that's 5 great options for Commander from Double Masters that EDH players everywhere are now happy to pick up. But you know what? This is Double Masters, so instead of just doing another cycle of 5, let's double up for a cycle of 10. That's right, it's the Lorwyn Filter Lands cycle. All 10 of them are back in Double Masters. And while instead I still would have liked to have seen all 10 fetch lands, can you imagine? They'd have charged $700 a box. But you know what? If we had to get something that wasn't fetch lands reprinted here, well, I mean, I guess original duels. Oh no, wait, the reserve list, because that means something. Sorry, I'm going off on tangents. The filter lands are great, but the truth is that if we're just talking about Commander, these filter lands are probably as good for your deck as a fetch land, or possibly better. If you've seen my videos on how to build a Commander mana base, you'll know how passionately I argue against having too many lands that come into play tapped. And a lot of the cheaper budget versions of filter lands do just that. These 10 filter lands are currently the best filter lands available in the game. And with their reprint here, they're at an all-time low in prices. I was almost tempted to just say this was the #1 card on my list for picking up right now while prices are low, but there's actually a lot more value in Double Masters, so let's keep looking down the list. Next up, I want to talk about Chord of Calling. If these reprints haven't struck a chord with you so far, then maybe this one will. Chord of Calling is a widely played tutor that can put a creature from your deck into play. Part of what makes it so great is that it has Convoke, so even your creatures that aren't mana dorks can help pay for it as though they were. Thanks to only a couple of printings before now, and extensive use in Modern, this card still managed to hold a hefty price just above $10 for quite some time. You should have seen how much it cost before that reprinting in a core set. But now, with a reprint in Double Masters and less Modern play because of reasons, Chord of Calling has been unlocked for Commander and can be had for less than $5. It goes in a lot of decks, most traditionally in an Elf Ball strategy for sure, but have you considered it for your new Jol Rael deck? Get some value out of those kitty cat tokens and grab something good out of the deck before you untap. Alright, the next card I'd like to highlight on this list is one that viewers would never forgive me for missing off on, and that's Ubliet. It's a Pauper staple that was $50 at one point. Yes, that's right, Pauper, the format that's affordable for everyone, had a common card that was worth the cost of a tier 1 deck in the format. In fact, these days, almost every Pauper deck can be had for about $30, $40, so it's really great that Ubliet got a reprint. But, like literally every piece of content about Magic the Gathering these days, here we're talking about Commander. And due to Ubliet's reprinting, it has become one of the must-have cards for Commander. Why? Because in order to simplify and shorten the rules text, they simply changed Ubliet to have phasing. And this is huge for Commander, a now must-have in my opinion if you're in black. Because when a creature that is targeted by Ubliet phases out, it doesn't change zones. So that means if you target an opponent's commander, they cannot redirect their commander to the command zone. Their commander just phases out. Sure, it'll come back if they get rid of Ubliet, but good luck with that, Sir Conrad. Either way, if you're in black, now is the time to pick up Ubliet, and it's only a couple of bucks. And if you really want to go for the bling, it's available in foil for the first time. Next up, I want to talk about Council's Judgment, another card that was really desperate for a reprint. Many Commander players may actually be unfamiliar with this card, as up until now, it had only had one printing. And thanks to the fact that Legacy players make good use of it as a powerful piece of removal, the price had most likely ensured most players would just avoid adding it to their deck. I mean, up until recently, this card was pushing past $25 each, though it did start to drop off a little bit as Legacy meta shifted, and of course, competitive gameplay in formats other than Standard was all but destroyed. But now it's been reprinted in Double Masters, and the price has gone down considerably. In fact, it currently can be scooped up for only a couple of bucks, and that's a great thing. Council's Judgment has a very unique effect. Because you're choosing a non-land permanent rather than targeting one, it gets around Hexproof and Shroud, with the exile getting around Indestructible. It's a potent answer to many problem creatures like Sigarda, Host of Herons, and if you can politic your way to getting the table to all vote for a different permanent, it can be incredibly efficient for the mana cost. While white has access to plenty of cheap and efficient answers, none of them are quite like Council's Judgment. And who doesn't love the will of the Council when playing Commander? A powerful card, a flavorful card, and now, thank goodness, an affordable card. Reprints! Another card that had a high price due to Legacy use, but is now much more affordable for Commander players, is Sneak Attack. If you saw my recent How to Build an EDH Deck tutorial, and you got as excited as I did for building a new Perforos Bronze-Blooded deck, then you might have been a little disappointed to find out that Sneak Attack was perhaps a little out of your budget. Now, however, with a reprint in Double Masters, this super fun card drops down to under $15. Wow! Which makes it so much more affordable. Sneak Attack is played in a wide number of creature-based red decks, particularly ones that can fish things back out of the graveyard. Feldon of the Third Path, Marchesa, the Black Rose, and Chainer, Nightmare Adept, are all commanders that enjoy a good Sneak Attack. And Sneak Attack aside, it can now be obtained on a budget, if that's your goal. But what's the top of my list? I'm actually going to say that when looking at Commander and looking at the reprints in Double Masters, it's Mana Echoes. Reprints. This is a card that has only seen one printing in Onslaught, and as a result, over the past few years, with the rise in popularity of Commander, it was going for over $50 each. Now, there's an obvious reason why Commanders love it. It has a unique and powerful effect. It's no coincidence that this card has spiked each time we've seen a new token-based Commander printed. It spiked when the Locust God showed up, and it spiked when Kaikar Wind's Fury showed up. Mana Echoes has always been a strong effect, seeing play in Sliver decks thanks to the infinite combo with Sliver Queen, and it also fits in just about any tribal-based deck, from goblins to werewolves. Yes, werewolves, I'm still waiting for that great werewolf commander to show up in Commander Legends. Thanks to its reprint, Mana Echoes is only about $20. And while that's far from cheap, it's so much more reasonable than the near $50 it peaked at. If you do have or want to build a token-style tribal deck, this is definitely a card that you want to snap up, especially since the price is likely going to go back up again. Commander is just growing and growing, and reprints of this, which was also only reprinted at Mythic, are not too likely. I hope very much that you enjoyed this video. Let me know what bargains you're going to pick up from Double Masters and why in the comments below. And don't forget, if you would like to buy some of these amazing resealable Magic card packs from Cuba Majigs, you can get an additional $5 savings just by going to cardamajigs.com/TCC or using the code TCC at checkout. Made from a sturdy, durable plastic, compatible with most sleeves, holds jumpstart packs, keyforge decks, easy fold technology makes assembling the box a snap. Cuba Majigs. What about all the murders? Like what about questions of this guy killed a lot of innocent people, but it was under a curse? I think that's a fair question to ask, his culpability and guilt. Does he even feel guilty? Should he be punished? What would that punishment entail? These are interesting questions that at a certain point in Magic's history, I honestly believe we would get stories about and exploring.
I also love the idea of like Garrick turning up and like he meets up with Jace and goes, "Oh, I'm all cured now," and Jace goes, "Ah, Garrick, love to have you back. One quick question though, about those murders, buddy." Right. And then them having to have that hard conversation.